What's up, friends? Welcome to another live edition of Syracuse Sports. This is Syracuse basketball postgame live, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe, and we are here. Let's be honest, kind of a rotten day for both Syracuse basketball, which loses to North Carolina at the JMA Wireless Dome, biggest crowd of the year, a listed attendance of over 23,000 people, the largest crowd in college basketball this season, that saw North Carolina come in without their best player, Caleb Wilson, but still beat Syracuse 77-64. So Syracuse is now 15-13, and I think we're all just kind of adjusting the dial to let's get this over with mode when it comes to this season, because surely this is a team that is not going to be playing meaningful games in March, that is not capable of making a deep run in the ACC tournament. So let us know when to turn the lights out on this thing, and let's move on. And I'll be honest with you guys. Look, I got a job to do. I'm doing this show. I've got a column to write, and keeping tabs with the team. That's my job. That's what I do. But I had a laptop open at the Dome watching a lacrosse game. Number one team in the country. Lose to Harvard, by the way, 13-12, the final in Cambridge. So a immediate setback for Syracuse men's lacrosse after retaining the number one spot in the country, which, look, college lacrosse this year, I don't want to go off on a lacrosse rant. This is a basketball show. There might not be a number one team. There might be 5 number one teams. North Carolina or Georgetown will probably elevate to number one on Monday, and then next week it could be somebody else. There's a lot of great teams in that top 8 to 10 in college lacrosse. Syracuse lost to a team that's just had its number. Harvard has beaten Syracuse 2 of the last 3 times. All 3 of those games have been 1-goal games. So I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I got a laptop open watching a fascinating lacrosse game while I'm watching an expected thing, to be honest with you. Nobody was surprised in what they saw at the Dome today, but the manner in which it went down was kind of interesting in some ways, as we will discuss here. Donnie Freeman ejected from the game, picks up 2 technical fouls. He had to wear number 53 for a portion of this game as he got blood on his jersey and had to switch jerseys, and then he took off the jersey no matter what number he was wearing, walking into the tunnel as he's ejected late in the game. Boos raining down at the end of the game from the patrons at the JMA Wireless Dome, and it's just, let's turn the page and get on with this thing here, right? Few games left, and then let the coaching search begin. They're still looking for an athletic director, of course. The panel has been put together, the committee, to suggest an AD. We still don't know who the new chancellor is. There's a whole lot still fluid in motion when it comes to Syracuse from the top down, but a decision is going to have to be made quickly on the search for a new head coach if and when the season ends, and if and when that is John Wildhack in making that decision, or if that's a new athletic director. It's going to be hell of a hustle if they got a new AD in place when college basketball hiring season really kicks into gear. The teams that don't make the tournament, and then you're waiting out coaches more than likely that are going to be in the tournament, and then it really kicks into gear as teams start losing in the NCAA tournament and the Sweet 16 and the Final Four round out. And remember, the transfer portal in college basketball does not open until after the national championship game this year. Thankfully, the portal was open during the tournament last year, and that was just completely ridiculous. So thankfully, the chaos of the portal will not start until after the national title game. But that's where the minds of most Syracuse basketball fans are going. What's next? Who's next? Who's in? Who's out? Who comes back? Who doesn't? Do they get Kai and Anthony back? Who are they going to need in the portal? They currently do not have a recruit committed for 2026, so it's all about peeking over the horizon in the future of Syracuse basketball, because in the present, this is a 15-13 team that had an opportunity today. See, the sad thing is we zero back in on the micro here, thinking more about the macro is where most people's heads are at, but thinking about the micro today. North Carolina comes in. They do not have Caleb Wilson, who is going to be a top 5 NBA draft pick. He's got a splint on his left hand. He's going to get back out there at some point. We were talking to some North Carolina reporters after the game, and Caleb Wilson has been pleading with Hubert Davis to play, even though, because it's not a shooting hand. And by all accounts, I was watching him warm up before the game. He looks like he can play. It's just, you're playing through pain and you're adjusting your shot and your technique and everything when you've got a splint, if you will, on your left hand. But Henry Visar did play. He was a game-time decision. This is somebody that makes a major difference whether he's in the game or not. You go back to Tuesday night, North Carolina had its doors blown off by NC State. They didn't have Wilson. They didn't have Visar. And North Carolina State just runs Carolina. Carolina goes 5 of 33, this on Tuesday night, from three-point range. In this game, they're 6 of 16. Now, they got to 5 3-pointers in the first half, already hits that mark. That's all of what they hit on Tuesday night. They only end up 6 of 16 at the three-point line. Syracuse is worse. 3 of 17 from three-point range. 3 of 17. Not that that's a big surprise to a lot of people that Syracuse struggle from the three-point line because they've just been very inconsistent there. But, man, the opportunity was open. North Carolina at the free throw line today, 15 of 28. 15 of 28, 54%. They almost doubled up Syracuse at the free throw line, and they shoot 54%. Syracuse was 11 of 16, 69% at the free throw line, which is nice for them. You'll take that every time with Syracuse. Carolina out-rebounded Syracuse, but not by much. It was more quality over quantity. There were some quality rebounds, if you will, that gave Carolina some breaks the other way, that they took advantage of Syracuse and some misses, but they only out-rebounded Syracuse 38-34. That is manageable for Syracuse. Points in the paint edged to Carolina 42-32. Both teams had 10 turnovers, so it's not like you had a turnover fest, but Carolina outscores Syracuse off points off turnovers 13-4, right? So this was Syracuse that just could not generate an offense. They could, same old story with the lack of ball movement and some of the issues we've seen with this team offensively this year. I don't have to rehash that for you, but this game was there for the taking. Remember, the first Carolina game was a little more unique than this one. They were down by 30. They start chipping away. They get within 6 down in Carolina at Chapel Hill, and they lose by 10. And you look at the final score, and most people that watched that game, no, they were nowhere near that. Caleb Wilson did play in that game, and they didn't belong on the same court with Carolina. Duke, we all know what happened in that game on Monday night. Worst loss of the Autry era, the worst loss since Syracuse joined the ACC. They had a chance to win this game. They are in this game. They came in favored to win this game. And, of course, the injuries factored into that. Visar was a game-time decision. They knew Caleb Wilson was out. But, man, if you put together just a respectable performance from the three-point line, not taking advantage of all the misses that Carolina had at the free throw line, and you look at the numbers here, J.J. Starling gives you 22 points. J.J. actually did talk to the media today, by the way. We're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from Nate Kings, and we're going to hear, who else we have? We have one more clip from William Kyle coming up here in just a minute. We'll tell you what those guys had to say in the locker room here. J.J. gives you 22 points. J.J. plays Batman. J.J. in one of his final home games, the biggest home game of the year. The last home game is March 7th against Pittsburgh. And, man, by the time they get there, could be friends and family only at the Dome and talk about just get this thing over with. Not the senior day that, unfortunately, J.J. Starling probably imagined, right? But, man, he comes out and gives you 22 points. Someone's got to back him up. Someone's got to be Robin to Batman. No one. Donnie Freeman, 9 points, 7 rebounds, gets thrown out of the game. Gets thrown out of the game. This is how Donnie Freeman responds to where this team has been recently, how he steps up in a big game. And when they came back and the anchors that they would be for this team, the veterans that they would be for this team, it just hasn't materialized where the two of them have come together as Batman and Robin and delivered Syracuse a big win. Every opportunity to do that today. So what are we going to think about with Donnie Freeman in this game and where his legacy is coming down the stretch here? Because of the full belief, I have no inside information on this. I just think he's done. I think he's going to the pros after this year. We're going to think back to getting ejected against Carolina, and then Autry. I'm not even going to play any Autry clips. I'm not going to bother. He didn't say anything at the presser. He comes in there and he says nothing, and almost in a way didn't even express any disappointment or anger or any kind of passion about what's going on with this team and players getting thrown out, because I think they're all just kind of checking out at this point, to be honest. Is it even worth it to get worked up about it? But JJ gives you 22. Freeman gives you 9, but was scoreless for a big part of the game. The second leading scorer is Tyler Betsy, who ends up with the three pointers that Syracuse had in this game. Too little, too late, didn't matter. Syracuse they were 1 of 13 at one point. Like, come on. It was right there for the taking. If they had gotten into and look, were there times to simplify this as much as you can simplify? Did Syracuse just miss some easy shots in this game? Yes, they did. And in the second half, Carolina shot 52% overall. Carolina, let's look at their second half numbers. 16 of 26, 61.5%. Think about what Duke did on Monday. Duke shot 72% in the second half. So the witching hour comes again for Syracuse. They have not been a second half team for most of this season. And Carolina shoots 61% in the second half of this game. Now, we mentioned how bad they were at the free throw line overall. I mean, they were 11 of 19 in the second half from the free throw line. But there for the taking. Different kind of story in this one than what we saw on Monday when Duke just embarrassed this program, the coach, the fan base, everybody involved, and they've now lost 11 straight to Duke, and everybody just kind of went in there expecting it to get their lashes in that one. This was a winnable game. You had a good crowd. Now, were there a lot of Carolina fans there? Yeah, Carolina travels. I'm always reminded when Carolina comes in, like, man, there are a lot of North Carolina fans that they're just a brand, right? You see all the Jordan jerseys, and it feels like Carolina's, you guys know this, of course, but when it's right in front of your face, it's like, wow, you just get reminded, like, they are a national brand. You don't have to grow up on Tobacco Road. You don't have to grow up in North Carolina to appreciate that team. That is just a brand that extends everywhere, and no matter where they go, there are fans that come to watch this team, that buy tickets specifically to see this program. Now, a lot of people, of course, have connections, and maybe you get a lot of people from the area that went to Carolina or just for whatever reason, like they're just a unique brand that they're going to sell tickets whenever they come in. I mean, the Duke game is always the game, but I think Syracuse administration is always pretty happy when Carolina is slated for a home game. There's a 1:00 game on ABC. Yet another national television broadcast where Syracuse got run. Kevin Brown, on the broadcast, I was at the Dome, so I didn't see most of the broadcast, but I saw a clip today on social media afterwards where he's like, there is just something strange with the program right now. I mean, that's one way to put it. I think he's being kind in that instance. Do I have it open here on my screen? Maybe I have it on my screen here. But, I mean, that's one way to put it. Anybody that's followed this thing game in and game out, I mean, I think there's other words they would use to describe it. But there was a chance to take this game. There was a chance to, and I don't, how much would it really mean? Would it be a flash in the pan? Would it be kind of deceiving in a way? Well, they beat Carolina. Maybe they can do something here. Like, we all know where this is heading. We see the exit off the highway. We know exactly where this thing's going. It's just a formality at this point to play out the season. But man, can you show on national television and not have national broadcasters saying things like that? Can you have a second scorer show up? Syracuse in this game had 6 assists. Now, Carolina only had 10 assists. They made 28 shots, 10 assists, but they didn't really need to move the ball because they were beating Syracuse time after time after time, one-on-one. Trimble had a terrific second half for Carolina, ends up with 13 points, shooting 5 of 7. He's blowing by Kyan Anthony. He's blowing by Nathan George. He's blowing by anybody that tried to get in his way, right? So Syracuse's defensive effort, Autry's in the post-game press conference talking about as one of the better defensive efforts of the year. Like, excuse me? Like, did you see how many times people just blew right by you? Look, Visar's a great player. He's a great player. 19 points, only 3 rebounds in this game, 26 minutes, comes in, and that's like a 75% Visar, by the way. He's had a lower body injury. He had the flu recently. My man's out there flying around. He had one of the dunks of the year that I've seen at the Dome in this game. Tough to guard. Look, William Kyle has his moments. There's no doubt about it. Syracuse actually had some momentum. Kyle gets a steal, goes down the other way, throws down a dunk, and you're like, okay, can we turn this thing around? Can we get the crowd into it, which struggled to get into it, certainly. And the Carolina fans, you heard their voice. There was always some kind of buzz in the building because the Carolina fans were reacting to what they were seeing. But Kyle, 4 points, 8 rebounds. Like I've said it before, I'll say it again. This guy's been the MVP of this team this year, but he wasn't the Robin that Syracuse needed on the offensive end. No one was. How does no one else step up offensively to complement J.J. Starling, doing all he can to lead the way, to be the senior leader, the offensive catalyst that Syracuse expected him to be, and he just hasn't always been this year. So what did they have to say about this? Let's hear from a few players and what they were saying in the locker room after this game. Let's start with J.J. Starling. It's been rare that we've talked to J.J. lately. He doesn't talk to the media anymore. He just kind of ducks out of there. But today he did sat down. He only answered 4 questions, which is better than none. We appreciate that because he's a senior. He's a captain. He's got a unique perspective on this as a local guy. And it's a season that obviously did not go according to plan. So you want to give him the opportunity to kind of express how he feels about that. And here's what JJ said about that, just what his mentality is here going down the stretch, knowing that this season obviously did not go according to plan.
My head up and just focus on, where I'm at and what's in front of me. That's all, and just stay present with my teammates. That's it.
Stay present with your teammates. I asked JJ just why this team was so stagnant on offense today.
It just got stagnant. We just stopped moving. We knew that they're a team that denies passing lanes, but, we let them take us out of our rhythm, and that's what kind of led to our downfall.
We mentioned the tough guard that Visar was in the paint. William Kyle here on knowing that he would play with Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, he's one of their leading scorers, so that's an extra 16 points for them. He averages 16. He's an elite player, elite post player, so it adds another level to their game. He was out, and it was kind of obvious against NC State. And we knew we weren't going to see that same team coming in, and Coach let us know that. He's definitely a difference maker. I think he had 3 blocks as well, so just that defensive presence as well in the paint as well.
And one more from the locker room. This is Nate Kings, who was asked kind of a similar thing to what we just played from JJ a moment ago. What's the message going down the stretch here with this team in its season starting to come to its inevitable conclusion?
I don't really got an answer for that. I don't know what I don't know where we're at mentally, but, just got to try and find the positive in things and, finish out the season strong and try and make a push in the tournament and earn the ACC tournament. And, just got to keep trying to stay positive and find those positive things.
There was a mistake there, too. Kings picks up a 3rd foul. Autry doesn't get him out. You need Nate Kings down the stretch. You need Nate. He's played great lately. Nate Kings is somebody, along with William Kyle, has been a pleasure to watch, not only all season, but particularly, since they turned the tide to the ACC. How Autry doesn't get him out of the game with 3 fouls, I can barely muster the excitement to talk about it because I just expect it now, and I think you expect it now. It's just this guy's not the right coach for Syracuse. He has proved that. He continually messes up the lineups. He continually does not inspire this team, does not coach this team through the perils that they have been through, and just makes these mistakes over and over again. It is Groundhog Day. So while I'm sitting here saying, how do you not get them out of there? I'm answering my own question as it comes out of my mouth. Why? Because he's just not a good coach most of the time. He's proven that out. And to not get him out with 3 fouls, so now he gets a 4th foul. He's out of the game, Nate Kings now, for a 10 minutes. He was out from the 16-minute mark. He came back in with about 6 minutes to go. On a day you can't hit water if you fell out of the boat from the 3-point line. He's your best 3-point shooter. He's not even on the floor. For what was a coaching decision, a coaching move. 3 fouls, get him out of there, right? So one way or the other, he would be sitting, but now he's sitting. There's a big difference between sitting a little bit, managing your time, and getting him back out there and risking he gets a 4th foul versus he's got 4 fouls and I don't have him for 10 minutes. I can't play him for 10 minutes, right? But who was surprised by that? That's just kind of where we're at with this thing. So just the vibe of it, right? It's almost like, would you rather lose the way they did to Duke, where you just know you don't have a shot against this team, and let's not pretend they got a shot against this team, whereas they're in this thing. It was there for the taking for most of this game. All it would take would just let's be fair about the basketball stuff. Make some easy shots, but 3 of 17 from three, 6 assists, ball movement, all these things, all these bad patterns that they fall back into, that cost them, right? Carolina doesn't have their best player. Carolina edged Syracuse in a number of things that you would expect them to, but there were a lot of moments in this game that were there for the taking. But Syracuse just doesn't play. They're not an inspired team. This team talks about their fight a lot, and we have seen that at times from this team. I don't compliment effort, but today, though, you could see the last 5-6 minutes. Like, Autry's got a bewildered look on his face on the sideline. Donnie's getting ejected, right? Like, the vibes just are, I think it's finally starting to catch up with this team. I think reality is finally starting to set in with what's going on. 21 minutes into the show, I should have given their props before this, but shout out to Jim Lee and Rudy Hackett. And you know who else deserves a shout out? Mike Waters. Because for a long time, Mike Waters, my friend and colleague from syracuse.com, has written a number of stories about Jimmy Lee, Rudy Hackett, most famously 1975 Final Four team, who long ago should have had their numbers up in the rafters. Finally, that happened today. Better late than never, but that is a big, I'll just be nice and say mistake that Syracuse has made through the years, that it took them this long to get around to those guys and to give that 1975 Final Four team it's due in that sense, right? So it was great to see them today. It was great to see them get honored today, finally, and to get a good vibe on things. But it's almost sad in a way, too, because there's Jimmy Lee and Rudy Hackett, and you see the banners going up. A lot of former players in the building today. Dion Waiters was in the building today. Any fans of the Rewatchables podcast? Dion Waiters Award. Shout out to those of you that are fans of that pod. Chris Joseph. Scoop in the house. Elijah Hughes and Tyus Battle in the house. I might be missing a few, but those were some of the key guys that I've seen. Now think about Lee and Hackett, Final Four team. Think about Dion Waiters and the success he had at Syracuse in his 2 years. And you know, the last truly great Syracuse teams in that stretch. Chris Joseph, great player. Scoop Jardine. Tyus Battle, even just recently, right? The last guy to beat Duke, if I'm not mistaken, right? Battle and that team, that's the last team that beat Duke. Hughes. These guys have tasted success. They've played in the tournament. They know what Syracuse basketball should be. So I didn't get a chance to catch up with a lot of those guys formally. Some of them post on social media and tell you exactly what they think. And of course, you know, we're used to Carmelo Anthony sitting courtside, but what's going through their minds? Watching this, like, this is not the standard of what this program should be. It's great that they showed up, and it's great that you get that wave of nostalgia and you immediately think of a moment. Tyus Battle beating Duke, Hughes with that almost full court shot against Duke and some of the great games he played. And you think of the moments, you think of memories that come flooding back about when Syracuse basketball was Syracuse basketball. I was glad that Lee and Hackett got on her for an older generation to say, listen, I remember when this whole thing kind of started. Roy Danforth hands it over to Jim Boeheim. The rest is history, right? So multiple generations are looking out there and saying, here's what I remember. I feel bad for the current generation. I feel bad for that class that graduated a year ago and didn't see their team in the NCAA tournament, and now that extends yet again. Think of the current students that came to Syracuse with some kind of concept of what being a fan of Syracuse basketball would be. It felt like that. The student section was vibing today, and it just was the feel of the big game. But ultimately, once again, another year is going to go by where the fan base and everybody involved with it is not going to experience what the standard is. Meaningful games in March, right? The NCAA tournament. So now you just kind of play out the rest of the year and let the offseason begin. I think that's just kind of the mode everybody's switching to. So look, it's always great to see those guys, But, man, it also makes you sad because it wasn't that long ago. We're not talking about, like, Lee and Hackett. We're talking about the mid-'70s. Dion Waiters, right? That's 10 years ago. That's more than 10 years ago now. But, within that range, Chris Joseph, Scoop, Tyus, Hughes, like, it wasn't that long ago where these guys were on good teams that you were just expecting to go to the tournament. Now we're in a range where that just can't feel further away. That feeling of Syracuse basketball is going to play a season, and they expect to go in the tournament. This time of the year should be spent talking about seeding and where they're going. Remember, we used to talk about, hey, there is a bracket in Buffalo, and there's a regional in Cleveland, and there's a regional in whatever it would be nearby, and Syracuse should get a high enough seed to go there and get home court advantage. They actually played in Buffalo. They played, 2014, and lost to Dayton in Buffalo, so that doesn't always work out to your favor. But those are the conversations we used to have. Now we're talking about a reset and everything that comes with that. And just, can we please go to the tournament again? Like, that'd be nice. See what our insiders had to say about this one. And just, what a day. Look, the lacrosse team's going to be fine. Could I just interject a quick lacrosse commentary? They're going to be fine. A lot of great teams out there. Harvard's got their number. I'm not excusing some things that they did today and the way they played today and the unforced errors. This great game came down to the end. Joey Spallina had a chance. Graham Stevens, Harvard's goalie, made a great save on him, right? That's Syracuse-Harvard games come down to one play. And this time it did not go their way. They're going to be fine. Now they're on the road for the next 5, and they've got a crucial stretch. Princeton, Penn next weekend. Uncle Brent's going to be at those games, by the way. So they're going to be fine. So at least when you watch that team, you're like, they're going to be fine. They're going to lose games. It's going to happen. They're going to be fine. Watching Syracuse basketball right now, you're like, we're going to be fine, right? Like, they're going to fix this thing. They're going to hire a coach. They're going to bring in an AD that can up the NIL donations and go by the standard of what Syracuse basketball is and should be. And you're going to fix this thing, right? Like, you're almost trying to talk yourself into it. Here's what our insider said about this one today. Because being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me anytime with your thoughts, your questions, your opinions on all matters of Syracuse sports, not just Syracuse basketball. Syracuse football, we know when the spring game is. We know when spring practice starts, about a month from today, as a matter of fact. That's going to creep up on us here. We talked about lacrosse and everything going on there. Women's basketball, let's not forget, is on a path to the NCAA tournament and is a fun team to watch right now. So we can shift more of our attention to the women's team and the conversations we should be having in Syracuse, New York in late February. What seed they going to get? Where are they going to play? What kind of bracket they in? They're an 8-9. That means they'd play UConn, right? Like, these are the conversations we should be having on the text line. Danny P leads us off and says, Brent, it's just foolish to wait any longer. Players are getting technicals. He has lost complete control, that being Autry. Just call it, change the vibe now, season's over. Chris P saying, this era of Syracuse basketball is excruciatingly painful to watch. I'm a masshole. Notice what I said there, not the word you're thinking of, Massachusetts, as anybody in Mass knows. Through and through. But as an 8-year-old in 2003, I decided to be a Syracuse basketball fan for life. I think it's penance for all the titles I've been able to enjoy as a Boston fan. I need to suffer somehow at this point. Ultimately, college sports, basketball is a business, and Syracuse is in their new Coke era. Shout out to Chris P., who's one of our new insiders, just recently signed up. From Tommy T., who says, what a stinker the basketball game was. Crowd was dead, three-point shooting dead, stupid turnovers, terrible switching on defense, leaving the North Carolina bigs alone. Then he talks about Kyan Anthony. Shaking my head, I don't know. I think he's a bust. I don't know if I want to put a bust label on it, but you would certainly expect a little bit more given the accolades he had coming in, starting to see the tide turn to improve. He had such a hard expectation to live up to, but the thing today and what did Kyan play today? 14 minutes, barely registered anything in the box score. He played terrible defense today. That's been a weakness of his all year. Really shined through against Carolina today. From Mike, says, still makes no sense to bench JJ with the game tied at 44. He's the only player who was active on offense in the second half. Keep him there and then watch North Carolina go off in that setting. Yeah, I mean, we talked about not pulling Kings with 3 fouls. Another Autry questionable substitution with JJ in that spot. Let him cook. He's the only guy cooking. And they pull him out, and it's 44-44. The crowd's alive. Is that when Kings threw in that? I think that's when, not Kings, pardon me, when William Kyle, I'm pretty sure that's when he stole the ball, went down, threw it in, and JJ doesn't come out of the timeout. It's like, what are we doing here, right? So all those moments that add up, but no one's surprised anymore. It's just the inevitable to see these things happen. From Micah, who says, another national television disaster, this time on ABC. And honestly, Brent, at this point, I'll watch, quote, ABC, right? Anything but Cuse. Ouch. Seth B says, enough is enough is enough. I have missed a handful of Syracuse games in 45 years, but I find it almost impossible to watch this team for the past several years. Syracuse needs a new coach from outside the family and need players who can shoot the ball. Being straight up athletic is not enough. From Brian C., who says just more of the same bad. Donnie played terrible, no offensive flow, make even a decent 3-point percentage in this, and it's a game. From Timmy C., who says, in my opinion, this team is so poorly coached that I still have not figured out if it's legit talent or not. It's just impossible to tell right now. That's an interesting conversation we have. How much of it is coaching? How much of it is the players not doing what they need to do, not going after the 50-50 balls, diving on the floor, and they just kind of get by on raw talent at some point? I think, if I had to put a percentage on it, it's like 70-30 coaching versus talent. I think a sharper coach, because winning breeds that feeling, right? Figures out lineups, figures out rotations better, puts this team in a better position, and you're winning more. Now, I'm thinking back, like Houston, you didn't make your free throws. Like, you're going to have, Red Auerbach running this team. You don't make your free throws, it's going to cost you games. But think of like the Hofstra game. Think of the Boston College game. Think of like when it mattered, when it felt like you go back a few months ago, and it was reported this week that Syracuse will be back in Vegas in November of 2026 for the Players Era tournament once again. So who knows what kind of lineup they'll have then. But it shows you the importance of those games, what Syracuse looked like in those games, what they looked like in beating Tennessee. And you're like, we got something here. It's early December. They just beat Tennessee, and theoretically, they should only get better from there. That's coaching. That is coaching. That is taking that momentum and working through and improving a team to the point where now you're ready to strike. Now you're playing your best basketball at this time of the year, just sharpening the edges, going into a tournament, ready to strike. Now, stuff happens. Look at Carolina. Caleb Wilson gets hurt. Visar gets hurt. So they have to kind of figure out a way around that. There's nothing you can do about that. But to me, most of what we're seeing, Tim, and it's a fair question, is coaching. But that doesn't excuse some things from the players either. From Chris, who says, there was a moment in the broadcast, I think Donnie's first technical foul, where Autry had a look on his face. It's the same look I have around week 13 of this semester. It's a pretty accurate representation of this game and this team. That like stare off into the distance look, where it's like, can this thing just be over, please? Chicago Mike says, a lot of questions about Syracuse today. Why was Kings on the floor with 3 fouls, only to pick up his 4th with 16 minutes left in the game? Sick and tired of watching Donnie Freeman dribble half the floor for a shot. Why does the majority of Syracuse's offense this late in the season involve standing around watching whoever has the ball? Goes on. Why has the offense not evolved past one-on-one sets? There is so much talent on this team that's being wasted. The answers to all the above are good coaching, right? So you see it, we all see it, we all know it. If this team had Josh Schertz this year, if this team had Brian Hodson this year, if this team had Dan Hurley, like give me the big names, Rick Pitino, I do think they'd be better. I do think some of the issues you're talking about there, particularly what Chicago Mike was just noting there about the one-on-one sets and the isolation ball and the same old problems, they're not doing that. They actually have some sort of philosophy that is tangible, that any level of basketball fan, level 5 or not, can see There's a plan. There's a structure. There's an offense here. There's a philosophy. Here's what it is. Still don't know. Still don't know what it is at this point. And even if you do, it's not what it needs to be, right? Are they just missing shots? We're just making excuses, right? We're just making excuses at this point. Great stuff from our insiders as always. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you access to the secret voicemail line. So let's go to a couple of those here. Here's voicemail number 1.
Brent, Frankie X here. Calling you just as the clock strikes 0 in both the men's game, hoops and lacrosse game. Rough day for both clubs. Focus, though, at the moment on what is now becoming apparent of this team's slow descent toward the end of the season. Honestly, Brent, I don't see this team winning a game in the ACC tournament. I just don't. I can see them completely now at this point losing out. I know I've said this before, but, today was just not only more of the same, but disturbingly more of the same. What I mean by that is Donnie Freeman, I want to key on him right now. Look, I appreciate what Donnie Freeman's done, but it's obvious that, and this is my opinion here, he just doesn't stack up against the best guys in the conference. If you're the best guy on your team, if you are supposed to be the straw that stirs the drink, you have to be a factor in these games. You can't collect garbage points, garbage rebounds, low calorie stuff. You've got to be the difference maker. And his ejection today, the 2 technical fouls, that's on Red Autry. That's on this coaching staff. You can't have a team that's undisciplined and expect to win ball games.
That's our guy, Frankie. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it as always. Here is voicemail number 2.
Brent, I think this game was more depressing than the Duke game because we actually had a chance to win. But we came in with a game plan to post up Donnie Freeman 18 feet away from the basket. 4 plays in a row that didn't work. That's what you get with a group of point guards who have no idea what posting up is. And then you got JJ going off on a heater in the first half, and what does he do? We'll just sub you out for Cayenne. He never learns anything. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and never learning. And you sub a guy out that's going off in the first part of the first half. It makes no sense. This is worse than the Duke game because I felt like going into this, we actually had a chance and just looked. It's just more of the same in the Adrian Autry era, and I'm looking forward to the end of it. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Jake. Always appreciate your insight there. I think it is worse to feel like you're in it and have the rug pulled out from under you, right? It's one thing to see Lucy sitting there with the football, nope, not falling for that today, versus wait, maybe she's going to hold the football this time, and you fall square on your back again, right? Here's voicemail number 3.
Hey, Brent. Not that Jim B. Tough day to be a SU fan. Don't really care too much about basketball. I think everyone's already turned the page on the season. But the only good thing to come out of today was good crowd for Hackett and Lee's number retirement, long deserved. And so glad that they got a big crowd and a good reception for that. Really disappointed in Donnie. He hasn't been playing well, but these last few games definitely are not doing anything for his draft stock. I don't know who the announcer was on the game today, but he was he was very critical of him. Not for basketball skills, but really just attitude and just kind of appearance on the court. And that was long before the 2 technicals. So hopefully he's a younger guy. He just needs to grow up, but that's going to reflect poorly with the NBA scouts. And as far as lacrosse goes, they just, wasted opportunities. I think they had a lot of good shots that they just didn't finish, either miss or the goalie from Harvard had some good saves. I think they're going to be all right. The rest going out the rest of the way. So we'll see how they do. But ready for the basketball season to be over, just mercifully end and start a new year and get a new coach. See you next time, Brett. Thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I think you speak for a lot of people out there. Let's just get this thing over with and focus on the offseason, which, by the way, you got to take a deep breath there. Now, there are coaches that have turned things around rather quickly and have their teams in position to go to the tournament in year one. To expect that, though, even at Syracuse with the resources it has with the right coach, would probably be much. So this is a 5-year drought, more than likely, of the tournament. It could be 6, while the new coach has to build a team, go into the – but see, the opposite of that is you can fix it like that in the portal, put a team out there, and it's a year-by-year thing now, right? But I think Jim speaks for a lot of people there. Yeah, lacrosse team – I want to rewatch the game. I had the game on while I was watching the hoops game, and I'm not a very good multitasker. I kind of got the gist of it, but I want to really sit down and focus and watch the lacrosse game. I'll have a column about that Monday and just kind of dig in there. But from what I saw, Graham Stevens made a lot of great saves. Syracuse had a lot of unforced errors that I think they'd like back. You got to learn how to play outside, right? And they practiced outside all week. It's not like they showed up in Boston and said, oh, crap, it's snowing. Like, they knew what they were going into. They just have to figure out a way to cut back on those mistakes and just get in a, kind of the same thing with the basketball team, get in it in the right flow offensively, get quality shots. But see, the difference is we know, because I've seen it and you've seen it, they have the talent to do that. They have the talent to just go back in the lab and fix the mistakes. Syracuse does not, the basketball team. What all 3 voicemails said about Donnie, and Jim added what the ABC broadcast was saying, that's why this team won't make a run. That's why this team is not going to go far in the ACC tournament. If I turn out to be wrong about this, then hey, circle back and tell me, what an idiot I was. But there is a certain kind of mentality that a team has to have to fight through an adverse situation like this. Adversity is hit, and this team is wilting. There are certain guys that fight through it. There are certain guys that have that qualification, but Donnie Freeman, not only basketball-wise, but leadership-wise, is not answering the bell. You need somebody that can do that in order to pull off the near impossible here. And this team doesn't have it. They don't have the coach to do it. They don't have the right chemistry, the right mixture on the court to do it. They have talent, but everything else, as we have seen, has painted the picture we're at here now. Syracuse doesn't play again for a week. They get the week off here. Their next matchup will be Saturday, the 28th, last day of February. It's not a leap year, right? No, it's not a leap year. At Wake Forest, that is a 5:45 start. So I'll keep you updated on the text line, guys. I'm not sure if we're going to have a post-game show for that because Uncle Brent's hitting the road next weekend. I'm going to be at Princeton covering lacrosse. Then certainly should be at our next destination by the time Saturday rolls around at 6 o'clock. So if I get settled in and the Wi-Fi is good in the hotel, and maybe we'll do a post-game show. Hopefully the hotel we're staying at has the CW, or we can go find a nice establishment in Philly where I'll be Saturday night and watch the Syracuse game and maybe do a post-game show. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the situation's going to be for Syracuse Wake Forest post-game, but I'll keep you updated on the text line, let you guys know about that. And then I'm going to be there Sunday in Philly for Syracuse lacrosse against Penn. So the lacrosse team, who's come up a little bit in this post-game show, they got 2 games in 3 days coming up next weekend. But the basketball team does not, the men's basketball team does not play again until next Saturday, the 28th. They've got Wake Forest. Then they play Louisville Tuesday, March 3rd. That's a 9 o'clock game. And then they close it out, the regular season, against Pitt at the Dome Saturday, March 7th. And then what I think most of us would anticipate a pretty quick stay in the ACC tournament. And then it'll be over. The show is also now over. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your pods so you don't miss a darn thing. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being a Syracuse Sports Insider. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your weekend. That's going to do it for this edition of Syracuse Sports, Syracuse Basketball Postgame Live, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. The Orange lose to North Carolina, 77-64, your final from the JMA Wireless Dome. My name is Brent Axe. We'll talk to you again soon, guys.